All right, back to Tanya and L'chaim, L'chaim.
Amen.
Beginning of chapter 19. So, something happened there? Is it recording?
Nope, still recording.
Okay, I heard a beep.
I heard it too.
So we learned in previous chapters that every Jew can serve Hashem because every Jew has an ahava musuteres, the hidden love that is embedded in every Jew. It's a inheritance from our forefathers, and because it's natural. You know, when you go to a person and you try to get him to learn something, you can tell, listen, this is topic, and it would do you good to learn this. Mm-hmm. Spend your time to learn it. Or you go to somebody and say, I see you're very, very good at this. You have a natural raw talent. Mm-hmm. You should explore that talent. Obviously, in the second way, it's a lot easier because the person feels, and you're not lying to the person you receive it. The person feels, hey, I have it already. All I got to do is bring it out. So the same thing. This connects, by the way. There's a famous medrash that a baby in utero learns the Torah, and then he's made to forget. So one of the basic questions is, what's the point of learning it? If you're going to forget it, why learn it? So one of the answers given is because it is a lot easier to learn something that you've learned once already. You're relearning instead of just discovering it fresh from the beginning. And so the Rebbe explains this love originates in the level of Chachma, because Chachma is the first level, Malchus is the lowest. So the soul, the energy comes in Chachma, and Chachma. If you remember last time we learned, I know it's not recorded, we had technical difficulties last class, but Chachma is made up of the words Koyachma. What is it? If you remember, Chachma is that initial eureka, flash of lightning moment. You don't know, and also you got it. What do you got? You can't even explain it. It's logical, but it's beyond logic. So that's what the Jew's connection to Hashem is. It's there, but it doesn't really make sense. That's why you have a Jew. We ended off chapter 18 saying you can have a person who's not religious, not observant, but unwilling to forsake his Judaism and his Jewish heritage when push comes to shove, and even to the point will give up his life. We're not talking about a religious person here. Why would he give up his life? It's because the level of the soul comes its way through Chachma, which is conception. Talking about the conception of a child, science till today doesn't exactly understand that whole process, how it happens. The same thing is it's above logic, and every Jew has this love as an inheritance from our patriarchs Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So we had a few questions from last time we learned. So two have answered. One of the answers is, what is the root of the love? And the other answer is, how do we come to inherit? The root of the love it comes from Chachma. How do we inherit it? It's from our forefathers. Two questions remain. What's the nature of the love? What does it strive for? And how is fear of God incorporated into love? Because we know love only helps you to do the mitzvot. You need fear to abstain from doing the averot. Right? I think one of the problems in modern day society is too much love. There's no discipline. You also need discipline. Kids have to hear no.
My kids were very familiar with the term.
My daughter came over to me, asked me for something. I said no. I said, Tati, you didn't even listen. I said, the rule is always assume no.
Yes. And
then if there's a yes, we'll decide.
We'll talk about it.
Exactly. Always assume no. Okay, let's continue. Chapter 19, page 258 in the old print. What page in the new print?
265.
265. To explain more further, so we have to explain well what it says in the verse, what King Solomon said in Mishlei, in Proverbs. Ner havayad nishmas adam, the soul neshama of a man is the candle of God. What does this mean? Pirush, this means she'Yisrael le'yidin hakruyim adam, that are called man in the Torah. Nishmasami lemashal karneh. Their neshama of the Jew is compared to the light, the flame of a candle. In what way? So just as the flame of a candle, shemisnaneya tamid, it's constantly moving. L'mayla b'tiva, it's always striving to move upward. Why? B'fnei ha'or ha'esh chafetz b'teva lepareh b'psila. Fire wants to cease to exist. The nature of fire is to want to cease to exist. The only reason why it's there is because something's holding it down. That's why we always have to add. Earth,
Yeah.
you put a pile of earth in the morning, it's there. Water, it's there. Everything, you put it there, it stays. The only thing that needs something else to exist is fire. You have to add firewood or oil, whatever it is. As soon as it runs out of fuel, as soon as it runs out of a bonding agent, it escapes. Because Kabbalah explains, because the nature of fire is above, and everything wants to return. Everything really wants to return to its source. I think it was Viktor Frankl or some psychologist said that when he was younger, he thought he wanted to be this and he wanted to be that. He says, in the end, boys just want to be daddy, and girls just want to be mommy. You go back to your source. That's the way it is.
Sentient.
Thank you.
This class is going to have no idea what
Exactly.
we're talking about.
I knew it ended up with like I in the but so it says, so the fire wants to separate from the wick, lodavik b'shershay lamaila, and to connect with this root above, beside the aish, in the element of fire, klali, in the general root of fire. Shetachas gagal yereach. Kabbalah explains exactly what it means. I don't know, but in Kabbalah explains there are 9 galgalim, 9 spheres. And the element of fire exists near or under the sphere of the moon. Now, does that mean the moon physically? I don't know. The Rambam says that these spheres are transparent. So we have no idea which one's above, which is lower. They're all spinning. So it's there. Again, I haven't studied it. And even if I studied it, I don't know that I'd understand it. But the point here that I was bringing is that the element of fire, the source root of element of fire, is above. And fire wants to go back to its source. So water and earth always trend downward. Why? Because the source of water is down. Earth, we know, down. Everything wants to go back to its source. So of the four elements. So earth is the coarsest element, therefore physically lowest. Water next higher. That's why water is on top of earth. And you got the ocean floor, you got the ocean. The ocean bed is earth. Then water. Then on top of the water is air. On top of that, what's on top of that? The firmament, the firmament. It's, the word fire is there. Now here's the important part. Now, what happens when the fire leaves the wick, leaves the wood? It ceases to exist. So the fire wants to leave the wick, knowing it's going to cease to exist. Although by leaving the wick it will be extinguished, it will not shine. It will not emit any light at all. So what's the purpose of fire? To give light, so it won't have any purpose. It's not like it won't shine here, but it will shine above over there. It wants a better job, it wants a promotion. No, because when the fire returns to its source, it doesn't give off light. You ever hold up a candle to the sun?
Mm-hmm.
Is the candle giving off light? No.
Well, yes, it is, but you can't see it.
So then it's not. It ceases to be a candle. Because the purpose of a candle is to give off light. So so now it's, and also it's the whole purpose of its existence, which is to give off light, will be nullified because it's in its source. So it would cease to be a luminary. For since a candle is in effect of illuminating its environment, when it's surrounded by greater light, then it's not a candle anymore. What's the purpose? The flame striving to unite it with its source cannot therefore be construed as seeking a higher form of existence. So I don't want to be a candle here. I want to be a candle up there. It won't be a candle up there, the fire. Furthermore, the desire for unification with its source, which can be achieved only through self-annihilation, defies the axiom that every existing being desires its continued existence. I think that's a scientific axiom, that everything wants to exist. It's brought down in Kabbalah as well. So the only two things that don't want to exist, a neshama and fire. Neshama has no interest in being here. Given a choice, it would leave like that. Be in a body or be in Gan Eden.
Mm-hmm.
That's like offering a kid pizza or green beans. Not a choice.
Green beans on the pizza.
Okay, get out. Logically, then the flame ought not to draw upwards to its source. Afal Bikain, still, although it would cease to exist, still, that's what the fire wants by nature. It's because it wants to be included in its source. Kach, the same thing, the same nature is b'nishmas adam, in the soul of a person. Not only the level of neshama, it's also the level of ruach nefesh. That means even the nefesh, which is the lowest level, the least godliness revealed, even that is aware of its source and wants to be included in godliness. Chafetza desires, v'chashecha yearns, betiva naturally, lipari v'ltzeis to separate and to exit the body. U'davek b'sharsha, and to connect to its root, the Makira and its source, Hashem, which is God, Chayacham Baruch Hu. So we find that when God gave the Torah and He spoke, the souls of the Jewish people left their bodies. Why is that? Because there was a great revelation of the source, and the souls want to be connected to its source. So on a normal day, on a regular given Tuesday, the soul is so layered and covered by physicality that it doesn't feel its source. And because it doesn't feel its source, it can't leave. It understands that there's a higher source, but it can't leave. That's what it says in Pirkei Avos. You're forced to be alive. The soul is forced to be here, even though it doesn't want to be here. But by the giving of the Torah, such an extraordinary circumstance, such an explosion of godliness, the soul just left. So the soul wants to leave. Now, what happens when the soul leaves? The soul is appreciated as something great and godly when it's here. When the soul leaves, it goes back to the realm of spirituality. So what happens then? Soul is meshed in and becomes undistinguishable. Thinking, why would the soul want that? That's exactly what it wants. It wants to be enmeshed and internalized with the source, undistinguishable. It says Hagam Shetiyah Ayin Ve'efes. Although by doing so, when the soul leaves the body, what will be the soul? The come of the soul will be null and naught. With the spalta as the gamri, and its identity will be totally nullified. V'lo yisharimenu. Me'uma, and nothing will remain of it. Vatzmusarishan of its original essence. Afla became still zeritzaina v'chafetza betiva. This is what the soul. The cold water is there, by the way. If you want cold water.
Oh, it's cold water.
Yeah, this is what the soul wants by nature. Note the Rebbe writes over here. Note the expression with nothing at all remaining of its original self. Unity with its source would not cause the soul to cease to exist. On the contrary, this is the soul's true quintessence. However, in this state, the soul would cease to exist while clothed in the body, a distinct entity with its own intellectual, emotional powers, and so on. Therefore, it cannot be postulated that the soul's yearning to unite with its essence merely represents a desire for self-elevation. We're not saying the soul wants to elevate and say, I want to be able to appreciate, I want to go to a better college. I'm in the world, which is community college, and I want to go to the spiritual world, which is Harvard. That's not what the soul wants. What the soul wants is to totally lose its identity. Why? Because it realizes that its essence, its soul essence, is much higher. Now this nature, who sheva mushal is a borrowed term, l'chol davar she'ini b'chin tamadas. When a person wants to self-annihilate, that's not normal, right? Take a soldier, for example. What do they do when a person comes into the army? They strip the person of self. Mm-hmm. Because as long as you're feeling yourself, you can't give yourself over to a greater cause. Now, in prison, they do the same thing, but for a negative reason, right? If you don't have any value, you follow the rules. But for negative, the army does it for positive, and the prison does it for negative. So
the Torah has rules too, isn't it?
Yeah, but exactly. But we are supposed to feel that we're an extension of God. Yeah, our only true self is an extension of God. So God gave us free choice, but not because we're actually independent and disconnected. Nothing is disconnected from God. Why do we make mistakes? Is because we think we're disconnected and we think we're independent. But in reality, we're not. We're actually very dependent being. You're not alive when you want to be. You can. Everything in your life is dependent on everything else. Yeah. So the soul, this idea that you want to self-annihilate, it's not normal. But naturally, you should want to exist. V'gam kan, and also here, hakavana sheratzim v'chefet zeh b'nefesh. So this desire of the soul to unite with its source, any b'chinas tamadas, it's not logical. In a knowledge, in intelligence that's understood. But it's higher than the grasp and the comprehension of rational intelligence. And this is what we said beginning of the class. This comes from the level of chachma, because chachma is made up of the words koyach ma. What is it? And in the level of chachma of the soul, that is where the infinite godliness shines. The super rational level of godliness shines. V'zehu klal b'kol sitra kedusha. And this is the general rule of holiness. Holiness comes from chachma. So the way it works is, holiness comes from a level that is beyond comprehension. What does that mean? Because the only true intellect, the only true entity is God. All other intelligence, like Eliyahu Hanavi said, you could be wise creations, angels, but no one can understand you. The only true entity, the only true anything is Him. So when someone wants to be a vehicle for godliness, what does he have to do? Realize that God is the true entity and we are not. The moment that a person feels his own existence, then automatically he's less of a vehicle for godliness. Because like this can only hold 7 ounces. 7-ounce cup. If I told you, here, this cup is mostly full, put 7 ounces of whiskey in here. You can't, because there's water in here. You want 7 ounces of whiskey? Empty the cup. Now I can put 7 ounces of whiskey. So the same way is, you're a cup. What do you want to fill the cup with? You want to fill the cup with godliness. You got to empty the cup of what? Of yourself. So anything that makes itself void, which comes from that comes from chachma, and that's habatul b'metzias. Habatul b'metzias means its existence is nullified. There are 2 types of bittul, of nullification, discussed in Chassidus. There's bittul hayesh and bittul b'mtzias. Bittul esh means the nullification of ego, and there's nullification of self. What's the difference? Nullification of ego means I exist, but my existence is, I'm not going to get excited over my existence because I'm here to serve a purpose. But I exist. I'm here. Bittul b'mtzias means my existence is not. It's a very lofty level. Because it's very hard for a person. It's very easy for me to do to another person. You don't matter. Right?
Yeah.
That's easy. I'm important. You're not important. See, for another person, it's very easy to nullify their existence. But for a person to feel, So for a person to feel that their existence is not, and their whole existence is actually questionable. Like, why am I here? I don't understand how I exist. It's a very, very lofty level. So why was Moshe the greatest of all time? Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? Because we learned this a couple chapters ago. Their forefathers were a chariot. They had no will of their own. Their entire existence was only to serve the Creator. That's why they're the Mount Rushmore of Judaism. Well, not of Judaism, of humanity. So it says, that's what he's saying over here. So anything that's b'alta b'mtzias, its very essence, existence is nullified to the light of the Ein Sof. Hamuluvish boy, it's clothed in them, any davar b'fnei atzmai, and it's not something in itself. So why? So take this. Let's take these two containers. You have the cup, and you have the bottle. They're both holding the exact same water. We know, because I poured water from this bottle to this cup. Yet, they look different. Why is it? Why does the water look different in the cup and the bottle?
I don't know where you're going with that.
It's because this is opaque. This is clear.
Okay.
Meaning, the cup is, and even the cup is probably obscuring the color of the water, maybe. But the cup, this material is transparent, so it allows me to see what it is. So the more transparent it is, the more I can see its quality. The more opaque it is, the less I can see it. So the more a person makes himself transparent, the more godliness shines through him. So when you look at, going back to Moshe's face shone.
Yeah.
What does it mean? That means his entire being was a vehicle for godliness, to the point where other people couldn't stand to look at him. He exuded godliness. Moshe's body was transparent, so his face shone. A regular person is opaque. So that's what we're saying. That's why Chachma is called, what is it? Two words. What is it? It's the power of humility and abnegation. Because what does a person that's nullified say? What am I? And a few weeks ago, when they came to complain to Moshe and Aaron, Moshe said, "What are you complaining to us for? Like, we took you out of Egypt, and why did Moshe bring us into the desert? We're nothing. We're nobody. The more you make yourself a nobody, the more you're a vehicle for." And by the way, it works this way in all areas of life. If you're a student or anything, you want to enjoy a class, a movie. You ever watch a movie and the guy's always trying to guess the end? Aren't those the most annoying people? Just let the story come to you. Just be quiet. Right? Sometimes talking to kids, I'm speaking, and I take a second to breathe, and I'll finish my sentence. It's okay. I made it through life. I don't need your help finishing my sentence. So it's the same thing with a student. Your job as a student is to listen. not to compare information. The more you empty yourself, the more you can receive. The more, and that works in godliness. The more bittul you have, the more you're a vehicle for godliness. This is the polar opposite of klippa, because klippa says, tuma, impurity says, I exist. Look at me. I'm important. I matter. Kedusha says, I'm nothing. Right? Look at Bilam. Bilam, we said, I'm important. Pare said, every person said, every wicked person said, look at me, I exist. The greatest of the Jews says, I'm a nobody. Like Pare tells Yosef, I heard you can interpret dreams. What does Yosef answer?
Not me. It's from God.
Okay, it's not me. Right? Hashem. She says, that's where the souls of Gentiles come. The Abdin, the Garmayu, the Amrin, have la. Because they act for themselves, and like Esav. Esav came back, said, give me, the whole story of Yaakov and the beans. Give me, feed me. Why? Because they feel their entity. They feel themselves. They're self-important. That's why the Gentiles build monuments. The Gentiles build buildings and museums. What do Jews build? We build yeshivas. We build schools. We learn. We teach on. And you go and you tell a kid, let me tell you what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Let me tell you what a Rashi says. Not me. I'm passing on to you what the Maimonides says. Because they feel themselves. We have to. Like the story in the Bible. They built the Tower of Babel, the Tower of Babylon. Why? Let's build it. They said, let's build a tower and make for ourselves a name. We got to show we're important. One day we're not going to be here. And that's why these people who feel themselves, they're called dead even when they're alive. Because ultimately, no matter how important you think you are, you could be the president of the EU, you could be, Elon Musk, president of the United States, here today, gone tomorrow, no one remembers, no one cares. You're not that important. No one's that important. That's the bad news. So it says, so anyone who feels their importance, they're full. It says, but chachma, it gives life. What does that mean? Chachma, with the godliness shines through, because chachma embodies self-abnegation. But Yimusu b'lei b'chachma, says they will die, but not with chachma. V'chein yereshei peish Yisrael, and so too the wicked Jews and the purposeful sinners of the Jewish people, kaidem shabol l'nei before they come to the test of sanctifying God's name, before they come push to shove, Judaism or life, they're also called dead. Why? Because at this time, we were talking before about self-hating Jews. The Jews that go against Israel. They're talking about this Shapiro guy from Pennsylvania, right? It was going to be might be the vice president's pick for Kamala.
No, they say he won't be because they're afraid that he's not going to be good. The Muslims won't be happy about it. Or something.
They say, but some of the worst anti-Israel stuff in the United States is coming from this guy. And you read the Haaretz newspaper. I understand you're against the government and everything else, but some of the stuff they say in the paper, how could another Jew write it? It's about your own people. So what's the problem? Like we said before, these Jews don't realize, because they're consciously they don't realize, who they are and how everyone else sees them. But when push comes to shove, they're going to throw their lot in with God and the Jewish people. The faculty of Chachma, the divine soul, because the godly soul is vested into Chachma, and when a Jew doesn't do what he's supposed to, a Jew doesn't act the way he's supposed to act, Hey mechinas galus begufim. It's in a state of exile. What does exile mean? Exile means you're not free to act as your true self. So a Jew who doesn't act like he's supposed to, his Jewish soul is in exile within himself. It's being exiled and being held prisoner by nefesh, by hamas, with the animal soul, the klippa sanoiga, from the side of klippa, shebechol small left side shebelev of the heart. That it rules over the body. Beside Golus Shechina, and the Shechina is in a state of exile. So every single Jew has a spark of holiness that is it's incontaminable, the indomitable spirit. No matter what a Jew does, a person can contaminate, and a person can cover up the expression of Judaism, but he can never eradicate it. It's there. Now, it could be he's done so much; it's so hard to come to the surface, but it'll never be eradicated. Therefore, this love of the godly soul, that it wants and desires to connect Hashem, the source of life. That's why this love is called ahava mesuteres, hidden love. Why hidden love? Because this guy's going around doing who knows what, right? Hanging around on Sunshine Boulevard, right? Sunshine Boulevard in LA. Sunshine.
Oh, I don't know. I've been to
Sunset. Sorry.
30 years ago, I've been.
I was in school 30 years ago too. Yeah, you were caught on Sunset Boulevard. You were at Yeshiva, right? So he could be going around Sunset Boulevard or whatever, hanging around with all these druggies and everything else. But that soul wants to connect to Hashem, and it's hidden, it's embedded. So why? So is he saying 265 in the old print? Because in the case of a sinner of the Jewish people, it is covered and veiled. And because it's covered and veiled, and because the Jew doesn't realize his true value, and because he doesn't realize what the right thing to do is, and this is why the spirit of stupidity comes into him and says, I can do whatever I want, or I'm a good Jew, and I can still eat McDonald's, egg McMuffin, whatever it is, bacon sandwich, I'm still a good Jew. Now when you say it like that, he's telling, I don't know if I told you a story. My friend told me that when he's from London, these missionaries came to talk about Jews for Jay. And they decided to try to con the Jews. They said if they come dressed up as Goyim, they're for sure not going to have any success. So what do? They got dressed up like Chassidim, black pants, all thing. But came lunch, I tell you the story. But came lunch, and they were hungry. So what does a Gentile do when he's hungry at lunch? He goes to McDonald's. Yeah. So they didn't think to change. So they walk into McDonald's, and they were the laughing stock of both the Jewish community, both the Gentile community, because everybody knows Hasidic Jews don't eat at McDonald's. So why is this guy doing it? Because he doesn't realize his own value. So as they say in Yiddish, it's a passion, pasnish. It's unbecoming for him. So why does a person act unbecoming? He doesn't realize his own value. Right? So some people, they act in certain ways and either self-destructive. They do all these things, and what does a good counselor tell them? So listen, you don't even know. I know you're better than that. And this is what this is really our job. Our job, when you meet another Jew, is not to introduce something new to him. Our job is to show him that the connection he has to Hashem is inside. You don't even know your own worth. So we have to try to bring out that hidden love. The hidden love. So next week, Alter Rebbe is going to start talking about how do we try to wake that up, right? Okay.